we also have another conversation that's coming up. Is private legal practitioner Samson Ladi Ayenini explaining some of the rules governing our electoral processes in a way that will give you a clearer understanding as you go out on Monday to vote. Samson, your vote is your secret. But people vote and take shots of the ballots. What's the position of the law?
The starting point is the Constitution in Article 49, which says that your vote should be by a secret ballot. Now, I do not know why anybody wants to take a picture of their vote. And like the Bible commands us, all things may be lawful, but not all the things that are lawful are expedient or are beneficial. So we must apply wisdom and not do what is not expedient or beneficial. Nonetheless, beyond the Constitution, we have the mother election laws in Ghana, and that is the Representation of the People's Law. In the Representation of the People's Law, it requires the Electoral Commission or the states and its officers that organize an election to take the steps necessary to help you, the voter, to protect the secrecy of your vote. Therefore, it prohibits disclosure of the vote in Section 24. But that prohibition is so that nobody should compel you to disclose your votes, particularly in proceedings in which the elections are being questioned or challenged. Nobody can compel you to disclose who you voted for. Now, beyond that, it provides also in Section 31, secrecy of the vote, requirement of secrecy of the vote. And you find that in Section 31 and even beyond that, it requires that the election officers, the interpreters, the polling agents, and even those who help the blind to vote, they must also help you, the one voting, to maintain the secrecy, so that they are not supposed to communicate what they have seen you do to any other person, not even including your voter details to anybody. What the law requires generally, including even the 2020 Public Election Regulations, Regulation 33, which says when you are handed a ballot paper, you proceed and secretly thumbprint on it. All of them you will find are looking for the people in charge of the process to provide an environment that accords with the constitutional dictate that your vote should be secret. Therefore, if you, having been given a right by the Constitution, the rights we enjoy, there are some of them that are called negative rights. There are some of them that are called positive rights. You will have an election, a decision, whether you want to avail yourself of the right or you want to waive the right. So for yourself, the law does not punish you if you disclose your votes. But for the officers around the process, if they disclose your vote, then they will be punished. So you see that very clearly in the law. You don't see any punishment for the person who decides by himself to disclose their votes. And the punishment, according to the law, could be for a fine of 6,000 for the election officers and whoever, interpreters or those who are helping the blind to vote. Or in addition to that, you could go to jail for 2 years. Yeah.
So can I be arrested for taking a shot of my ballot paper after voting?
And I am aware the police say they have arrested some people for taking a screenshot of their votes in the special voting. Question is, the same constitution provides that nothing is a crime unless it has been put in a written law, and the penalty for it, the punishment for it, has been also prescribed. I do not see an offense created for that act, and I do not see, I've searched the laws, I do not see a punishment also prescribed for that act. My question, however, is, if you apply common sense and wisdom, what is the use in taking a shot? But the major thing about that is actually about you seeking to disclose your vote, which the law doesn't punish.
Okay. Can I vote twice? It's not a simple yes, is it? Or no?
You can vote twice. Controversial, but let me explain. You can vote twice only if you have been registered as a proxy, meaning you are going to vote for yourself, but you have also, ahead of the election day, also been registered by the Electoral Commission to vote for somebody else because the person is not available. Otherwise, universal adult suffrage, everybody is entitled to one vote.
If I don't have my voter's ID with me on the day of voting, can I still vote?
Yes, you can. Your voter ID is to assist for you to be verified, so that we can say, yes, that is you. But we have a system, and as confirmed by the Electoral Commission, that allows what is known as manual verification. For as long as your name has entered the register, you should be able to vote.
Can I outsmart the system, even though I know I'm not a registered voter, and still show up and get the opportunity to vote?
By the mother election law, which is the representation of the people law, if you vote pretending to be someone you are not, maybe the person is dead, the person could even be alive. If you did that, you will be committing the offense of personation. So if you have not availed yourself for the registration, your name is not on the register, just end it there.
If I know I registered multiple times, can I show up to vote?
If you know for a fact by yourself that you registered multiple times and it was perhaps by mistake, the process of exhibition would have cleaned the register in such a way that you will be left as one. Now, if you had done that deliberately during the registration, the law would have caught up with you during the exhibition, and then you would have been punished.
The policy, no mask, no vote, it's become very controversial. What is the clear position of the law? Can I be disenfranchised for not wearing a mask?
So, your right to vote, as enshrined in the Constitution in Article 42, is a right that the law says nobody can take it away from you. So once you are a Ghanaian, once you are 18 or above and you are of sound mind, the law says you are entitled to vote, and by that entitlement, entitled to be registered so you can vote. Now, I want to show you what our Supreme Court has had to say about that. And there is what I'll call the long line of cases in which our Supreme Court has upheld this law and jealously guards against anything that diminishes, detracts, or seeks to frustrate your ability to exercise that right to vote. In fact, the court calls it the sanctity of the vote. It sees it to be sacred and therefore says anything the state or the Electoral Commission will do about your right to register and to vote must be to facilitate it. And the Supreme Court in one of the cases used the expression must, quote, give life to that right. Anything that tries to take away that life will be unconstitutional. And this is how the court put it. And in Abu Ramadan and Evans Nemako versus Electoral Commission, the Supreme Court said, and I'm reading from the Supreme Court of Ghana Law Report 2013-2014, Volume 2, and they said, the exercise of this right of voting is therefore indispensable in the enhancement of the democratic process and cannot be denied in the absence of a constitutional provision to that effect. Unless this constitution says you can be denied the right, the Supreme Court says you cannot be denied that right. No law, any law that says you can be denied it must be the Constitution. That's what the court just said. Now remember that in some other countries, like in Australia, it's not everybody who is entitled to the vote. Like people who have been convicted for crimes and are serving jail terms. But to let you know the importance that Ghana puts to this, in one case, Ahuma Okansi, the Supreme Court held that people on remand in prison, people who have been convicted, condemned in the prisons, are entitled to vote. How can a mask prevent me from voting? How can COVID prevent me from voting? In that case, the Attorney General had actually argued that if you're a criminal convicted and you are serving your term, we should punish you as a state so that you don't enjoy the right to vote. The court said no. Until the Constitution has taken that right away from you, nobody, not even the court, can take it away from you. So, in a long line of cases, in Ransford, France, the court protected one person's vote. There's a number of them. And we have had our Supreme Court actually halt an entire district assembly elections just because somebody's capacity was in danger. Ability of somebody to participate was in danger. What am I saying? Because of COVID, which has been declared as a public health crisis by the world, as a pandemic, and Ghana, through various constitutional executive instruments, we have said it is so. Then we empowered our president by passing the Imposition of Restrictions Act. And by that act, we empowered the president that anytime he got advice how the virus is behaving, he should, without recourse to Parliament, issue an executive instrument to guide us. The President has issued an executive instrument that says, do not move out of your home and get into the public space without wearing a mask. First, it says face mask, face shield, or any face covering. 3. Which means once you are moving into the public space, you must wear any of these. If you are not wearing, you are committing an offense, which is punishable by least 12,000 and maximum 60,000. Or you could go to prison for 5 years. You could go to prison for 10 years. But guess what? The Electoral Commission is not the enforcer of criminal law in this country. The enforcer of the criminal law is the police. So the EC has the right to say you should wear your mask. But by the law, which I have read to you, it does not have the right to prevent you from voting. So it can say, go get a mask. But it cannot say, you will not be allowed to vote because you came here and they used the temperature gun on you and the people around take the view that you have COVID. Anything it has to do must facilitate your right to vote. That nobody can take it away from you. And that's why it's very simple, no brainer. We should have masks. There are people who genuinely can't afford. You know, initially I took this for granted until I encountered somebody. I was driving and I stopped and asked somebody during the time when we're having the lockdown and all. The person told me that the whole day, what he had made hawking around was 4 Ghana cedis, and that day was almost a good day. So there can be days when he will get nothing. What that means is that there are people who genuinely can't afford a mask. They may be in the minority, but to comply with the Constitution and the Supreme Court's dictates, we must do things that will facilitate the people's ability to exercise the right and not to take it away from them. And the simplest way is to get the mask there. We got the mask when we're registering to distribute to people. Why can't we give it when we are voting, which is the second and ultimate step for registering? The political parties are going around organizing the super spreader events. Thousands of people gather together. They are protecting themselves, but the people who gather are not protected. Do they go there and arrest them? Do they go there and force them and say, because you are not wearing a mask, you not do this? So let's stop it. And I think the parties too can also innovate and get the mask and supply to the people when they come to vote and they don't have one.
The High Court has been designated to do reviews. What happens on a holiday when we're holding an election and you need to run to the courts?
Right. So as we know the history of this country, when the need arises, there is provision for the courts to work. When the need arises, there's provision for the courts to work. So I do not think there will be any problem about activating the courts to do what they have to do in respect of election dispute adjudications. And in fact, the Supreme Court is now abridging the timelines even for presidential election petition, right? You have 21 days within which to file it. They say they are seeing how they can cut it down to 7 days, even though that is a constitutional provision and it's difficult to deal with. But there are other provisions in the CI 74, CI 16 as amended by 74, where there's some 15 days, 10 days, and another 15 days provided for certain things to be done. And the law empowers the court to abridge the time, as in reduce the time for those things. So that gives me a sense that we will not have the courts, wanting for doing things in a speedy manner.
Thank you, Samson.
You're welcome.